Yo guys, Taki here. So this is going to be the most in-depth order block and propulsion block guide. And we're going to start off with what they are, then go on to how to take trades off them, stop loss management using order blocks, and then we're going to be putting everything together at the end with some examples. So let's just get straight into what an order block is. Now on the charts, let's look at some examples. So a bullish order block is a series of down close candles. So this would be an order block. This would be an order block. This would also be an order block. And for something like this, these two would also be an order block. So instead of just marking out this one, you would mark out both of them at once because it's a series of down close candles. And what you can kind of see is if we extend this out, we can see that once price comes into this level, it rejects and it goes higher. So if we drag this one out too, we come into it once, tap into it, and go higher. Right here, come into it, tap into it, go higher. And then we get a move lower towards these order blocks. And then tap into it, go higher, tap into it, go higher. So this is how you identify a bullish order block. And for a bearish order block, it's the opposite. It's a series of up close candles. So if we take a look at something like this right here, so this would be an order block. So these two candles combined because it's a series of consecutive up close candles. And you can see this one, it's not respected very cleanly because we are kind of just bullish on the higher time frame. So you can see we kind of chop around, and then once we close below this candle, then it becomes an order block. So once we close on this 1053 candle, then that's the first candle where we close below this level, right? So that becomes the order block once this closes, and then we can see we come back into it, tap into it, and then reject, tap into it, reject, and then we just go higher because we are bullish on the higher time frame. There is more reason to be bullish than to be bearish because of all the sell side liquidity that we just swept. And let's take a look at propulsion blocks now. So this right here, it's actually a propulsion block. So a propulsion block is essentially just a order block that is formed off of a order block. So when you have this order block, right, we tap into it and then we create this second order block. So now this becomes your propulsion block. This is still just an order block. But then a propulsion block, what you would kind of expect price to do, you just tap into it and then instantly displace higher. Okay, so you can see here, right on this candle 1022, we closed above. So this is a order block now. And then right here, 1023, we tap into the order block and then we close bearish. So now this is a propulsion block, right? So once we tap into it, we get some hesitation, but then you can see this insane move higher, right? You can see this rapid move higher. And you can also see if we drag it out, right? Tap into the propulsion block and then get this move higher. Tap into the propulsion block, you get this move higher. And that's how you use propulsion blocks. And for a bearish example, let's take a look at a good example. Let's see. And make sure you guys do like and subscribe because it does help with the algorithm. It does help with my motivation. All right, so let's take a look at something like this right here. So we have a order block that's made and then close below. So this is when the order block's actually made. Tap into it and then create this order block. Right, so now this becomes your propulsion block. So once we tap into it, you can see price just melts, goes lower, and then it's towards this liquidity pool. So we get some chop around here, but then finally or eventually we go down towards this liquidity pool right here. All right, so now I want to talk about high probability order blocks. or CISDs. So essentially, when you get a sweep of liquidity and then create an order block, then this becomes a CISD, or a change in state of delivery. And then right here, this entire thing, this is your series of consecutive up close candles here. So a change in state of delivery, I like to just kind of think of it as a high probability order block, because if you have something like this one, this is just the order block that's created at a random place. But with something like this kind of series of up close candles, it's created after this liquidity sweep. So there's more reason for us to go lower. There's also this fair value gap right here. Right, so this order block I would trust more than this one right here. And as you can see, we create this change in state of delivery. We tap into it, right? We barely tap into it, and then we just instantly reject. So something like this is also a change in state of delivery right here. This bullish order block. So you have your series of consecutive down close candles that swept liquidity here, that swept liquidity here, right? We swept all of this sell side, and then we get a move higher. So we close above this candle, and then that becomes your change in state of delivery. We tap into it, we go higher. Then what do we do after we sweep buy side, tap into this fair value gap, create this change in state of delivery? Then we just disrespect this, because now this change in state of delivery, it's no longer relevant, since we're only using this to push price higher towards buy side, right? We want to rebalance towards these inefficiencies. Since we just got this huge dump, we need to get some buy side before we can go lower towards sell side. So we just use this to rebalance towards inefficiencies, grab some buy side, and then get this huge dump. And then once we're down here, we just swept all of the sell side. We swept this sell side. We swept these sell sides. Then we probably swept some sell side all the way to the left. And then this becomes your change in state of delivery, right? And we didn't tap into it, but it's kind of like a breakaway gap, right? When I see a change in state of delivery that just doesn't get tapped into and we just run higher, I like to see it act as sort of a breakaway gap where we just don't retrace into it. And also what we have here is an order block, right? This is your propulsion block. So we tap into the order block and then create this propulsion block right here. When this candle closes, tap into the propulsion block, and then we just run higher. And where do we go towards? We go towards buy side liquidity. So let's see. We have these equal highs that we made. And then we get this one last move towards these relative equal lows, these sell side liquidity pool. We have this fair value gap as well, right? Tap into it and then just get an instant move higher towards buy side, because that's where we're trying to go. And right here, you can see there's a change in state of delivery right here. So sweep sell side, create this order block. Now that's a change in state of delivery. Tap into it, and then we go higher towards these relative equal highs. Now, once we sweep the relative equal highs, what do we get? So technically, this would be your order block now, since this is the last series of up close candles. But I would kind of just use this entire range, since if you go onto the higher time frame, it'll all just merge into one candle. So I would be looking at this entire range to act as a order block. And then what do we see here? We close below right here, and then we get a retrace into this order block, and then we get a move lower. And right here, you can see we also have an inversion fair value gap, right? And then inversion plus order block. So you can kind of refine this area. You can kind of use it as like a BPR. It's just using multiple PD arrays to refine your area of entry. So what you could have done, entry, your stop could be above this candle. Target sell side right here. And then once we sweep sell side, so once we sweep this, do we get any good moves higher? I don't really see anything too good. So technically your order block would be, or your CISD would be this one, because this is your last series of down close candles before the liquidity sweep, right? This one's not going to be your CISD. This is just a regular order block because there is no liquidity sweep right here. So technically this would be your CISD, but once you close above, tap back into it, it just kind of chops around. So it's not the best CISD. However, we do get this, and we make these equal lows right here. Right, and we can see, since the equal lows are a good draw on liquidity, once we go higher, take out this buy side, we start drawing towards the equal lows. All right, so now I want to talk about refining your stop loss with order blocks. Right here, we have a BPR, sweep buy side, and then get this move lower. So your order block right here, this right here, would be your change in state of delivery. And then if we use the rectangle tool with the midline marked out, then this center line, it's the mean threshold. For fair value gap, it was the consequent encroachment, but for a order block, it's your mean threshold. And once we come below, so once we close below, make this order block, you could have took an entry right here. And instead of putting your stop above the high or above the order block, you could put your stop loss above the mean threshold, especially when your order block is big like this one, right? You could target sell side right here. You can target sell side down here, or you could target all the way down here. And by using the mean threshold, you can see how tight of a stop loss you can get it. So if we were to target just this right here, with the mean threshold, you get a 3.58 R, but if it's above the order block, 1.8 R. So it's basically like double the RR, right? And especially like this one, since you have a fair value gap right here, you have a BPR right here. Oops, you have a BPR right here. I would expect this mean threshold to be respected, and if it's not, then it's likely that we just go higher. So this is a good place to put your stop loss. All right, so let's take a look at this one. We have sell side and create this order block right here. So your mean threshold would be right here, and you can see tap back into the order block right here. If your stop was below the mean threshold, it would be right here, and then you can target buy side like up here. And I mean, you can see how cleanly it works, right? Especially with larger order blocks like this. If your stop was below, or if your stop was below this swing low, then your RR would be much worse. This is a really good way that you can refine your stop loss, right? You try to get a better RR, and it doesn't always work, but basically the difference between the order blocks that respect the mean threshold and the ones that don't just come down to kind of just overall market conditions and how clean the order block is actually made. So like this one, we have a clean liquidity sweep, and then we have this kind of clean order block with a large body and not very long wicks. So this one, I would kind of trust that the mean threshold would hold. But if you had a order block with long wicks and small bodies, then I wouldn't really want to trust that as a good mean threshold order block. All right, and then now I just want to put everything together and go through an example. So here we have this fair value gap right here. Tap into it, and then we go higher. So there's the liquidity sweep, and then this would be your order block right here. It would be your change in state of delivery. Once we close above it, we tap into it. And what do we also tap into? There is also this tiny BPR right here. Right? There's this tiny CB, and then there's this BC. So there's this tiny BPR. And since we got this change in state of delivery, we got this BPR, we got this liquidity sweep, I would expect this low to be a protected low. So you could take an entry off of, you could take it off of the close above on the order block and then a retrace into it. You could take it off of the BPR. What you could also take it off of, you could also take it off of just this CB right here. And let's say that you took your entry off of the BPR. You could put your stop below this protected low. You could put your stop below the mean threshold of this order block. You could put your stop below this candle that created the BISI, or just below the BISI, right? And you can see, just if you use these PD arrays, there are a lot of ways that you can actually enter and manage your trades. So you just have to kind of experiment with using a lot of these PD arrays, since ICT concepts, they're not a specific way to trade. They're just giving you the concepts so you can, figure out your own style of trading, right? And then you can target something like this buy side, or you could just target this buy side, right? And then we come higher sweep buy side, and then once we come back into this change in state of delivery, you can see we respect it because we are bullish on the higher time frame. It makes sense that these bullish PD arrays are being respected, right? We get this tap into CISD. What do we create? We create this change in state of delivery, right? This series of down close candle now becomes a change in state of delivery. What do we also have? We have this breakaway gap. What do we also have? We have this BISI. And when you have a BISI that overlaps with a order block, it's high probability. So entry, stop below, mean threshold, stop at the breakaway, target, buy side. And this would have been a clean entry as well. All right, so I'm editing this video, but I just realized that I forgot to say something very important. So when you have a BISI like this, or a CIBI, when you have a fair value gap, and you respect the consequent encroachment when you leave the bottom half or the top half, whichever, depending on the BISI or a CIBI, open, when you only tap into, in this case, the top half and then instantly displace higher, then the order block that you make off of that move is a high probability order block. And I think this is something that was discussed in the 2024 mentorship by ICT. So if you guys do want to learn more about it, make sure to check that out. All right, so that's it for the most in-depth order block and propulsion block guide. So just to summarize, bullish order blocks are a series of down close candles, and a bearish order block are a series of up close candles, and they become high probability when you actually have a liquidity sweep or some kind of bias behind the order blocks. And propulsion blocks are essentially just order blocks off of order blocks. If you respect an order block, create an order block again, then that's your propulsion block. And when you take trades off of them, you just want to wait for a retracement into the order block or the propulsion block. With your stop loss, you could either put it below the order block, you could put it at the swing points, you could put it at the mean threshold or the midpoint of the order block. And when you put everything together, you can use other concepts like BPR, fair value gaps, breakaways to kind of refine your entry, refine your stop loss, and just overall give more context to the trade that you're actually taking. And that's it for the video. So make sure you guys do like and subscribe, and hope you guys have a good time trading.